How to Follow Your Heart, a live coaching experience with Curtis Kleem, episode 58. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. And as promised in episode 57, we are going to try a new format for the show today. So this is an extra bonus episode we're throwing in here. And what it is a live coaching call. So I did a coaching session with a law firm owner, and with his permission, I'm repurposing that coaching session here on the podcast. And the purpose of this is for you to be able to benefit from it. So what happens is we all face similar challenges, and the challenges that this particular law firm owner was dealing with and grappling with and facing are not necessarily alone his challenges. You'll find that there's a lot of commonalities between some of the things that he's dealing with and something that you are dealing with too. And you can follow along with this process and do the exercise, answer the questions yourself. And you'll see that coaching is the art of helping somebody find the answers that they already have within themselves. And it's not about giving somebody advice. And you'll see throughout the coaching call that the real nuggets are in extracting the true data from within the client. So let me give a quick intro. Curtis Kleem is our guest. He is the owner of Kleem Law. Kleem Law is a solo practice with a couple of staff members, and we cover that in the beginning of the interview. So I'll let the interview take its form and show us through that. But his practice does a combination of matrimonial law, specifically mediation, as well as adoption cases, and more recently just added personal injury as well. So some PI, some adoption work, and some family law. And you'll see that I'm, as I've mentioned in past episodes, not a big fan of focusing on multiple practice areas. Ultimately, you are your own boss. You own the firm. It's your choice. You get to choose what you want to do, but you really need to figure out why you're doing the things that you do. And if you're adding additional work to your practice because you're concerned about the ability to bring in what you would like to bring in from the preferred practice area, and you're adding another one on top of that, then that's really the wrong way to approach it. And there are other solutions than adding complexity by adding additional practice areas or service areas. So that's not the focus that I want to focus on here, but I just wanted to prepare you for this coaching experience. Now, this is very time sensitive. So if you're listening to this episode within the first 2-3 days that it comes out, this is going to be for you. After that, this link probably will not work. But if you go to profitwithlaw.com/replay, profitwithlaw.com/replay, you'll be able to get access to a 1-hour training that I did this past week called the 5-Step Process to Law Firm Success in 2020. So if you want 2020 to be your year, that you break all of the restrictions that you've had in the past, you've been trying to be successful to your definition of success, and it's just not happening. And the biggest issue is that you'll get there eventually, but how long is it going to take? What if we can make it happen in 1 year? So I did an hour presentation showing you how to follow this 5-step process to, at the end of it, end up with an actual plan for the year that would get you past any point that you've been able to achieve so far. So if you're interested in that, it's going to be available just until Monday. And let me look at the calendar real quick. That is Monday, January 13th. And then that replay will be coming down. On the end of that session, I pitch a 2-day workshop to go deeper and to work with me in a very small, intimate group to get this work done. And that workshop is happening on Monday and Tuesday. Now, there are some people who want to do the workshop and cannot make it for those 2 days. So I very likely am going to open up a couple more days for the workshop. So if you watch the replay and you're interested in the workshop and you cannot make it Monday and Tuesday, make sure to send me an email and let me know so that we can check and see what dates work for you and try to accommodate that. Anyway, let's go right into this into this interview. So here is my interview. I'm sorry, not my coaching session with Curtis Kleem, and it's a little bit of a longer episode. You might want to use in most of the podcast players. You can speed up the sound to 1.5x. That might make it a little bit easier to make it through, just because of how long it is, and there is a lot of pausing in between because it's a coaching session. It's, there's question and answer and time for each of us to think of our responses to each other. So I would really like to know what you think of this format, and I'm going to ask you again at the end of the episode, but if you can just pay attention to whether or not you liked it and let me know, you can shoot me an email. Or you can just come into the Facebook group, the Law Firm Growth Summit Facebook group, and just let me know in there. We'll have conversations about it in there as well. So without further ado, here is the coaching session with Curtis Kleem. Curtis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Moshe, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, and I appreciate you doing this with me. We're going to go outside of our comfort zones, and I say our because for me to do this publicly is probably just as uncomfortable for you. But we're going to give this a go and see if we can achieve success for you, and then help our audience in the process. So let me ask you to tell me a little bit about your background and your law firm, and what got you to our conversation today.
Sure. Well, I've been practicing for, 18, 19 years now. I'm first generation lawyer. I didn't grow up around lawyers. I didn't know I wanted to go to law school until about 6 months before I went. I was working in I was working at a boys' home or a children's home, and was finishing up a master's in social work, and decided that I really wanted to make changes and affect policy, and I figured I could do that better with a law degree. I later found out that there's really no jobs in child welfare policy for lawyers, so I ended up, after law school, I came to a small town in northwest Georgia, Dalton, Georgia, carpet capital of the world, as a law clerk for our local trial court. And I haven't left. After a year of doing that, I went with a very respected medium-sized firm, had about 7 attorneys at the time, and I made partner there after a few years, and was there until June of 2018 when I went out on my own, still here in Dalton. So that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am now.
Okay, so a year and a half ago, you started your own law firm, and what exactly is your practice area?
So I'm a mediator. So I do primarily family law mediation. I've spent probably 80% of my practice in family law, general family law issues. In the last 5 years or so, I've been able to morph to do a lot more adoptions, which is something near and dear to me. I've adopted my 2 daughters, so I love doing adoptions, and I'm doing more and more of those. I'm also doing and trying to do more personal injury cases. So if I could have a practice of mediation, adoptions, and personal injury, I think that would be the perfect mix for me. But that's kind of my practice right now.
Okay, and what about the size of your firm? Is it just you, or do you have staff?
I do. I have one of my last secretary at McCamey came with me, or she did not come with me. A few months after I left, she came over. She was starting school, so I have her part time. She attends the local college on well, now she's going Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so she's with me Mondays and Wednesdays. And my wife also is working with me as well. She does a lot of the scheduling the mediations and has a background in social work. She has a good sense of folks, and she can help me with some of the family law, helping screen cases, things like that.
And how is the firm? So if I understand correctly, you have yourself full-time in the firm. You have your secretary working 2 days a week. And then your wife is
That's
also
correct.
part-time, or she's really full-time in the business?
No, she's part time. She's here when Rosie's not. So my wife is definitely part time.
She's there 3 days a week.
Right.
Okay, perfect. So between the two of them, you have a full-time staff person, and you're the only
That's
attorney
correct.
in the firm.
That's correct.
Okay. And looking back at 2019, financially, how did the firm do for you as far as providing an income for your family and giving you momentum to move forward into 2020?
Sure. It was my best year yet. In terms of just raw revenue, it was my best year ever. I've definitely done better leaving. It's easier to market yourself when you're out on your own, I've found, and so I think my marketing is definitely better than it was at the old firm, and my revenue is projected and moving upwards. I'm moving up, so that's nice.
Right. And since we're on a coaching conversation here, I'm going to tell you that revenue is almost meaningless because
Okay.
because you can have $100,000 of revenue and have $200,000 of expenses, and you're losing $100,000 a year, right? So
Sure.
although revenue is a good indicator of your ability to bring in new business and bill clients and collect on it, it doesn't tell the whole picture. It doesn't tell the story of how the firm is providing to you personally. So I don't want to discount your revenue successes, but I do want to have a good starting point of understanding where you are today as a starting point, as far as
Mhm.
what you're able to take home from that revenue. You
Right.
know,
Right. And that's also been very good.
good.
One of the only reasons to leave my previous firm is because of the expenses. Like I said, I love those guys. They've a great firm, but my expenses were too high, and my expenses here are much less.
Hmm.
And so last year was better than the year before in terms of my take home as well.
Great. Awesome. All right. So let me ask you this. If I could wave, or if you could wave a realistic magic wand, where would you like your law firm to be 6 months to a year from now?
So I think the only real difference, I guess, is that I would have a more I would have more PI cases. I would have a steady stream of PI cases and leads to choose from, and would be have a nice pipeline of 2 or 3 PI cases working at any particular time. And the only other difference would be more adoptions. Adoptions was my biggest revenue area last year, and I'd like to continue to build on that momentum, and continue to do more and more adoptions. So those are the two real things, and what that would mean would be fewer fewer general family law cases. I did last year stop taking any contested divorce cases,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm still doing uncontested divorces and other, custody cases, child support cases, things like that. But I had decided that I'd done a non-scientific poll and realized that probably 80% of the cases that had kept me up over the years and kept me up at night or caused me more angst than they should were divorce cases, contested divorces. So I said, well, you're busy enough, you don't need to take them. So I'm not taking them. And so fewer general family law cases, more adoptions and more PI cases would be my kind of the magic wand.
Okay, so for the PI cases, you put a quantity on it. You said 2 to 3 PI cases working at any given time. What about the adoption cases? What does more adoption cases look like?
Well, it's hard to say. I have a good feel for how much money I brought in last year on them. I don't know that I've sat back and quantified how many I did. One of the things that I did look at, there's two. I have private adoption cases, and I have adoption cases that come from our local child welfare agency. Mm-hmm. And I did do that math because I wanted to see what I was doing. Let's see if I can find how many there were. Remind myself. I did the math somewhere, but I'm not sure where it was. Did it on my. I had 24 of those where the state paid my fee, and then I probably had another 20 or so private adoptions. I would say maybe not quite that many. I have to go back and look. So I would if I could have 30 to 35 of the defects cases, that's the agency, a year, and another 20 or so of the private cases, I think that would be a good goal for me.
So you're looking for a 50% increase on the defect cases and basically to keep status quo, have the same number of cases with the private adoptions.
Well, when you say it like that, I'd probably enjoy even more of the private adoption cases as well. So,
well, we're waving a realistic magic wand, so let's
right.
put out there exactly what you want. It sounds like private adoption is more enjoyable to you than DFAC.
No, I like doing them both.
Okay.
So yeah, no, either of them are fine,
or
preferable, sure.
So if you had a 50% increase in each of your adoption type cases and you had 2 to 3 PI cases working through your firm at any given time during the year, if you had it just like that, what would that do for you?
Well, it would make, I think financially, it would be certainly an increase in my income. I think it would also, it would be I think a more enjoyable practice. If I never had another contested family law case, I think that I would enjoy that. That would be preferable to me. So I think just a quality of life issue in terms of the type of work I'm doing. I don't know that I'd necessarily work less with those types of cases. But it very well may end up that way.
Would you still be doing the mediation cases, or would you be getting out of that completely at that level of adoption and PI?
Well, that's a good question. I would imagine that I would still be doing some mediations. I'm doing a lot of mediations in our local area, and I have a sneaking suspicion it's because I'm a little more technologically advanced than some of my other mediators. Other attorneys can schedule mediation through my website, through Acuity, and it's about the easiest thing that can be done. And so, I think I get plenty that way. I think I'm also a decent mediator. I don't think that's an issue. Last year I went up on my rates for mediation, and I still my increase over the previous year was still more than my increase, more than in percentages. And so I like doing those. I like that it's a nice steady stream of income. If I'm doing too many of them, it means I'm staying here late at night trying to get all my other work done. So I'm always trying to be cognizant that I'm not overloaded on mediations because I can't get any other work done when I'm mediating a case. So I don't know that I'd ever get out of it completely, but and I don't know that that would be a goal of mine either. I don't think I necessarily want to get out of it completely. I enjoy that work.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my question. My question to you was, what would that do for you to have this lineup of cases the way that you outlined it? You know, the magic wand scenario in the next
Sure.
6 months to a year, and you had told me that it would increase your income and it would increase your quality of life. Is there anything
Right.
else that it would do for you above and beyond those two things?
Well, I mean, maybe this is just a different way of saying that. I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of the adoption work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a area of practice that I believe in, and that is very fulfilling to me. And I consider that a quality of life issue, though. So I don't know if that's really anything different, but that would be my. I believe in that work, and so I think that's an important aspect of that goal.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to detour from where I'm heading with this line of questioning to ask you this: if you feel so passionately about the adoption cases, why would you not do all adoption cases if you had a magic wand and you were able to completely book yourself out with adoption cases? Why are we holding on to the PI and the mediation?
I think because I don't believe it's realistic to expect that I could, in my market, that I could get enough of those to completely carry the practice. Dalton is a medium-sized town where there's another town that's in our circuit. I'll do adoptions in other circuits, don't get me wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that there's the market for that. I'm probably doing 60 to 70% of the adoptions in my circuit right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what critical mass there is, but I think I'm probably pretty close to it. So I think I'm maxed out to some degree. I think I can always get more, and I'm always trying to get more, don't get me wrong. But
Right.
I think I'm pretty close to being at critical mass on how many adoptions I'm doing.
Okay, so when I said
Just in the
realistic
terms of
magic
market.
wand, right? So when I said
Yeah,
realistic magic wand, you stuck on the realistic part and said, I don't think it's realistic to do only adoptions. Got it.
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I asked you what it would do for you to have what you want in the next 6 to 12 months, which we've clearly identified what that is. And you told me three things. You told me quality of life, you told me increased income, and you told me that you're going to also have more of these adoption cases, which is something that you're really passionate about and really love doing. My next
Sure.
question to you is, what would be the best part about it? And I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
I think doing more adoptions. Sure.
Okay.
Just believing in that mission, believing in forever families and that kind of thing. So I think being able to do more adoptions, I think, would be the best part of that arrangement.
Okay. So, and my next question was why, but you already answered that. So it's very clear that you're extremely passionate about the adoption process and being able to help people build their families in that way, which
Sure.
is why that would be the best part of it for you. And you even said that you have 2 of your own adopted children, which makes it even more close to your heart and close to home. So I totally get that.
Right.
What do you think could be slowing you down, standing in your way, or stopping you from having all of these things, from having 2 to 3 PI cases working at one time, a 50% increase in your adoption cases, so 30 to 35 and of the public ones, and 30 private adoptions, as well as a handful of mediation cases?
So I think at this point, I think I have the capacity for them. I don't think there's a problem with my setup in terms of capacity. My thought would be on the adoptions that there's to really expand on the public, the defects adoptions, the agency adoptions. I might have to do more kind of informal marketing with the local agencies that kind of thing. Make sure I'm front of mind for them as they're helping their clients find the adoption attorneys. And then being more willing to go outside of my circuit. I think I've suggested that I'm probably at critical mass in my particular area. Marketing outside of the two counties that I primarily work in might assist with doing some more private adoptions as well. And I think generally with the PI, getting more PI cases, I have to work on my website a bit for some of the SEO, and I have to, my capacity will be an issue. I think I probably will need, and if I'm able to get to that point, I think I'll definitely need an additional full-time, or maybe a full-time Spanish-speaking assistant. It will probably be my, in terms of capacity, I think that's where I'm going to have to go if I get to that point.
Okay. So what I heard is that for DFAC, you would need to do more formal marketing to get that to increase. What does more formal marketing mean to you?
Well, making sure that all the caseworkers have my marketing material or material. Basically, I've got a flyer, and I've got my cards that I make sure all of the caseworkers have, and just continuing to work that avenue, work that. So I kind of can consider that, maybe it's not informal, but I consider that kind of more informal marketing, making sure I'm front of mind with those caseworkers. I took them, the local agency, I took them breakfast a few months ago. I make sure all of them are aware. I always provide a free photographer for the day of the adoption for the families. And so I make sure all of them are aware of that extra that I provide our clients.
So you need to do more formal marketing. Are you not doing this right now as far as making sure all caseworkers have the flyers and the cards? And if I understood you correctly and that's not already in place, what is stopping you from doing that?
I am doing it. I could probably be more regular about it. So, like, I took them breakfast once last year. I could probably, and when I did it, it wasn't the best time to do it, and I basically found out that probably the better time to do it would be on a particular day a week when they have in-service meetings. And if I could do it there, I could be there, and everyone would be there all at once. So I think doing that more effectively and maybe more regularly would be the one thing that could make that more effective, I think.
Okay. So is there anything stopping you from doing the breakfast more effectively and more regularly with the agency staff?
I'm going to give the answer that I've given for years and years that is a terrible answer, but is also the truth, and that's just that I think I'm too busy. I think I'm too busy to go do the things that I know I need to do. I think that would be my answer.
There's no doubt in my mind that you are a very busy person based on our conversation thus far. If I were to ask you if you really wanted more adoption cases, if that is truly what you wanted, and you knew that in order to do that, you would have to be more effective and more regular in the breakfasts that you're doing for the DFAC staff, would you still put your stake in the ground and say, I'm too busy?
I would convince myself that it's important enough to not be too busy to do it.
Okay.
Is that a cop out? Reframing it to say, look, this is important. You do things that are important. You do things that are important in other aspects of your life. So you do this because it's important and it meets your goals.
Right. So my question to you is, and we're not even at the point of solving the situation. I just want to really understand what is truly preventing you from doing this. I don't think it's because you're too busy, because you can choose to not do something else and make this a priority. And if you really think about where your priorities lie based on your answers to me, your number one priority is increasing adoption cases. You identified that of
Right.
all the things in your perfect situation, if you could wave a magic wand, would be increasing adoption cases. Everything else took second seat. That was the best part of your answer. So if
Sure.
that is the thing that is your number one driver, that is the number one thing that you would like to have more of, and this is, and you know in your heart that this is the gateway to get there, can you find something else to put aside to make sure that this happens? I'm sure the answer is yes.
Sure.
So now my question to
I,
you is what is stopping you from doing this?
I think that I am also, well, not also, I think I'm also less comfortable with that kind of face-to-face marketing, with that
Okay.
kind of face-to-face. It is outside of my comfort zone to do that. It was uncomfortable when I did it back in October, early November maybe. Um, so I think there's definitely that's there, certainly.
Okay. Now I think we're getting somewhere. Now I think that we're getting to the root of what might be preventing you from doing this, because we tend to procrastinate that which we don't want to do, or
Sure.
that which we're
Yeah.
uncomfortable doing. Not necessarily that we don't want to do it. I'm sure the desire to do it is there, but your mind is going, our human behavior, human nature is such that we're going to avoid pain and discomfort. Our
Right.
brain is
Right.
wired for survival. So if going to this breakfast and meeting people face to face makes you uncomfortable, you're going to sabotage it, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. So I think that
I think
that
that's
that's
I think that's exactly right.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to get present to that as we go through this.
Yeah. No,
I'm
I
going to
think that's
go
exactly right.
I'm going to go to the next thing that you shared with me. So you said that you think that what might be standing in your way is that you need to market outside of your circuit beyond the two counties. I'm going to ask you the same question. What is stopping you from doing that right now?
I don't know. I will tell you that the circuit that I am in, I think we have more, and it's an assumption I'm making, but I think we have more adoptions that are coming out of the state agency than other circuits. It has to do with our juvenile court judge. It just has to do with we're a little bit larger than the other counties. Um, I'm more comfortable in this circuit, so I think it's here again. It's a little bit of the comfort zone issue, and so I think those are the two. I think those are the. I think
How
it's the same reason.
how are you marketing right now in the two counties that you're in? Is it strictly getting to know the people at DFAC? Was there any other
Yeah.
marketing efforts for?
Well, I am doing certainly my website um, emphasizes adoption. I've got a Facebook page where I'm talking about adoption. The I have a good relationship. I know all the attorneys. This area is small enough. I know all the attorneys that are working with the DFAC's clients and the foster parents. So I have that interpersonal relationship with them, and with a lot of, not all, but with a lot of the caseworkers. So that's primarily how that's happening with my local counties.
Okay, so when you say that marketing to outside the two counties is outside of your comfort zone, and it sounds like what would be required is for you to create new relationships with a bunch of people that you don't yet have relationships with, but both the
Sure.
attorneys in those counties as well as the agencies or the agency staff in those counties.
Right.
What exactly about that are you uncomfortable with? Because you did it the first time, right? I mean, we established that you're uncomfortable with the breakfast, but ultimately you're bringing in cases right now in your two counties, so you've already established these relationships. It took time, but you did it. So
Right.
what's uncomfortable about it?
I think I'm naturally an introvert, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's just an interpersonal preference. I think I have a good relationship with folks that I've known for years and years, and I think I'm relatively well liked around here. But I'm an introvert, and so going in there and meeting folks that I don't know already, and introducing myself and those kinds of things are naturally more difficult for me.
I totally understand that. So it's hard to break the ice. It's hard to make that initial connection.
Sure.
So if we could find a way to help you break the ice and make that initial connection, do you think that would remove all the barriers for you to expand beyond the 2 counties? Or would there be something else stopping you or holding you back from doing that?
That's a good question. I think that's the biggest barrier. There's part of me sometimes that wonders if I should push into another area because I might be pushing into someone else's territory. Stay in your own lane, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why why I'm hesitant to do that. One of the attorneys in the other circuits has been coming into my territory, and
Right.
so I don't know why I'm hesitant to go into that territory. But I've also been.
I'm going to stop you for one second. I'll stop you for
Sure.
1 second. I want to just hang on this for a moment.
Okay.
Earlier in our conversation, you told me that you probably have about 60% of the adoption cases in your 2 counties, but you would like to increase that number.
Sure.
Isn't that the same thing? Isn't there somebody else doing the other 40% right now? And when you increase from 60 to 70 to 75 to 80, are you not taking that away from somebody else in your 2 counties?
Yes, but that's in my county. And maybe this is much too territorially, there's no reason why it would have to be this way. So I don't know why I think that way, but that's her territory over there. That's
right.
Her office is in that circuit. So that's her territory. This is my territory over here.
Right. And is there a special mayor of the adoption process that knighted you the official adoption attorney in your 2 counties versus the other county where they knighted somebody else?
No, not at all. Now I am here. I don't know that makes it doesn't.
I get that. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I'm in Rockland County, New York. I've chosen to run a virtual business, and I serve clients throughout the U.S. Somebody else might have a more in-person practice and only serve people in their geographic area. If I end up reaching somebody in their geographic area, am I stealing their clients? Some would argue yes, but I think that's a very limiting mindset. I think that there's business for everybody, and people get along.
Right.
People connect with certain people better than others. You're never going to take 100% of the business in your 2 counties.
Right.
There's always going to be somebody who doesn't like you.
Sure. I think it is definitely a limiting mindset. I think you had touched on that in one of your previous podcasts about what a limiting mindset is. I think it is. I don't think there's any question that it's a limiting mindset of my own that says you have to stay in your lane and not go into other areas. Just because this is your home territory doesn't mean you can't expand out.
Okay. We're definitely making some good progress here and I just want to point it out as we go to show you what's happening. I'm asking you questions, and you have the answers to these questions. They're already there inside of you.
Sure.
The way I'm asking them is bringing it to the surface, and you're sitting there starting to recognize where some of these blinders might be, where your blinders might be on. And already you're probably starting to think about ways that you might be able to overcome that. And that's naturally going to happen as we go through this process.
Yeah.
So needing to market outside the circuit beyond 2 counties, we identified you're an introvert. It's hard to break the ice. So it's outside of your comfort zone to reach out and make that initial connection. You also have this assumption or belief that your county, where you live and operate and work from, those are your counties, and another county is somebody else's territory, and you'd be encroaching on their territory, on their business, which I just want to stay present and mindful to the fact that that's there.
Sure.
Is there anything else that might be stopping you or holding you back from going outside of the two counties? I'll ask you the question another way before you answer. If we were to find a way, if we were to come up with a solution of, how to break the ice with these new contacts, I'll give you an example. You host a big information session for everybody involved, and they all come, and you don't have to one-on-one go and meet them all. They automatically know who you are, and now you have a list of people to follow up with that you already have a connection with. So now the ice is broken, and you're able to move forward with that initial connection. And then you overcome this stay in my lane thing. You recognize that there's business for everybody. You're not stealing somebody else's lunch, and you figure that piece out. So you've overcome these two reasons. Is there anything else that's going to stop you from going and trying to get business in those two counties and outside of your two counties?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's things that make it less lucrative or less, maybe there'd be fewer cases, but nothing that would suggest if I could get the work that I wouldn't take it. No, I don't think there's other.
So geography is not an issue. You might have to travel there. You might have to, maybe rent an office space to see people there. All that would not hold you back. No.
I mean, yes, I may have to travel more. I don't think the nature of these types of adoptions, I don't think I would necessarily need to meet them at an office there. So no, I think that I could definitely do that. Like I said, it may be, a court appearance takes 2 hours instead of an hour or an hour and a half. It might mean that there's more travel time and things like that. But other than that, no, I don't think there's other issues. Those are things I'm willing to build in as the cost of doing business, and I'd take that deal every day.
Okay. Good. So I'm going to focus still on adoption cases before we move to PI, because one of the things you shared with me was PI related. On adoption cases, besides for needing to get better with your marketing to the DFAC agency staff, and besides for needing to market outside of your circuit, is there anything else standing in your way, stopping you or holding you back from increasing your adoption caseload 50% from where it is today?
No.
Okay, good.
I mean, there's time, there's capacity issues, but I'd easily stop doing other work to fill up the capacity with these adoption cases.
So let's actually focus on that for a moment. Time and capacity. So what would serving this level of cases, 50% more than you served in the last year, in the coming year, what would that do to your time and capacity, and how does that affect the rest of your ideal situation?
That would, in terms of capacity, my time, I can do these agency adoptions in about 3 hours. I don't know that I have a perfect feel. Do them in about 3 hours of time. And so taking on another 20 or 30 a year is not going to be an issue in capacity. What it would mean, I think, is that I would have less time for other of my family law cases, which I'd gladly cut back on for this. It might also mean I would probably change my mediation scheduling. Mm-hmm. So that I would only take mediations in the afternoon. All the counties around here do their adoptions first thing in the morning. So when there is a court date, it would be first thing in the morning. But that does impact being able to do a mediation first thing in the morning. So I would probably limit my mediations to just the afternoon, and then do so that I'm keeping the morning calendars free for the more adoptions that I'm doing.
Okay, and financially, would limiting the number of mediation cases you take because of the increase in the adoption cases, would that be a positive or a negative factor on you financially, or unchanged?
It would be it would probably be a net maybe a net wash, I would say. I don't make it nearly as much on a average mediation that I make on an average adoption. Um,
So if
and
you increase your adoption cases, that would be a net positive if you make more on the adoption than the mediation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know it would be a one for one. If I did this, I don't know that I'd take on, you know, 20 new adoptions and lose 20 mediations. I don't think it would be a 1-to-1 ratio like that. I don't. I think that I don't know how many mediations I would lose if I only scheduled them in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I might do just as many. They may just be more heavily weighted towards the afternoon.
So what you're saying is you might not have a time capacity problem. You might just have to change the logistics.
That's correct. Yeah, no, I don't think that because the adoptions are not terribly time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's a capacity issue there. There is a logistics issue, and I've started to do this already. I've blocked off certain mornings where we normally are in court for um, adoptions, where I don't allow people to schedule mediations on that day. But different counties have different mornings, and so what I probably would end up doing is marking off every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know. None of the other counties have court on Monday, so I'd probably would make sure I just blocked off every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so that I wouldn't have mediations on those days.
Okay. So you could handle, capacity-wise, you could handle a 50% increase in adoption cases and still maintain the same caseload that you have right now for mediations with some logistic changes to the scheduling.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's
Okay.
correct.
So that is not something that is stopping you, standing in the way, or holding you back from moving forward.
No, not at all.
Okay. Is there anything else that might be standing in your way, holding you back from moving forward, for specifically for increasing your adoption cases that we haven't touched on yet?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that covers it.
Okay, so asked another way, if we if we got you into a comfortable place where you can hold these breakfasts, and it's not outside your comfort zone, so there's no reason for you not to do that face-to-face marketing, and we got you to the point where you don't feel like you're stealing from somebody else to get adoption cases outside of your two counties. So both of those things are happening. There's nothing else that's going to prevent you from increasing your adoption caseload.
I think that's right.
Okay. Let's switch gears to PI work. You said the PI work, you would need to work on the website. You need to work on the website a bit, and you have a capacity issue where you would need a full-time Spanish-speaking assistant. So let's take one of these at a time. Working on the website, what is preventing you from doing that already?
Time, just having the time to sit down and do it, or to some degree the time to even find the people. Maybe a natural hesitancy to spend real money with someone that I don't trust to do it right. Not that I'm going to do it right if I do it myself. So it's kind of that's one of my first quarter goals is to get is to do that, is to get the website where it needs to be, to update it, get more personal injury content on it, to have someone to tweak it, or to audit it real well and make sure there's no glaring issues and things like that. So it's my first quarter goal, or one of my first quarter goals, and just finding the time and just the time to sit down and do it.
Okay, so you identified two different things. One is time to sit down and do it, and I'm assuming you mean to to identify the content that needs to be created around it, and to write that out. Is that a correct assumption?
That is. Also the time, I mean, I'm not opposed to spending money to make that happen. And just finding and finding an agency that I trust to pay to do it. Well, it might be the other way of saying that. Yeah.
Right. And that's part two. So time to sit down and do it. There is something that you're going to have to do, even if you find an agency. They're not going to come up with the words to say, or you at least need to give them some guidance there. And then second, to find the people which you've identified that you have a hesitancy to trust people to do it right. Even though you know that you might not be able to do it any better than they can.
Right.
If you were to have the right people to do it, would you have the time to sit down and get your end of it done?
Yes, I think I would. I think at that point the motivation would be there to say, okay, we have a plan. We have, these folks are going to be able to help me get it where it needs to be, and these are the three things you need. The three pieces of content you need to create, and go do it. So yes, I do think that that's something that the time would not be the issue at that point.
Okay. But you haven't done it until now. So the time has been an issue until now, but you're saying that it would change your motivation. So there might be another factor here, which is you're not motivated because you are, I guess, overwhelmed by the thought of needing to find a web person.
That may be part of it, yes.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just...
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I don't know if it's all of it. I will tell you that it has not been until the last 6 months or so that I really decided that I felt comfortable saying, okay, I want to move away from generic family law cases and move into, focusing on adoptions, the mediation, and PI cases. And so the part of this, I was going to work through the week or through some of the holidays. I always take a week off or more than a week off in the holidays. And of course the grandson's in town and it, there was just no time to do it in the holidays. I'm not going to spend time in here. Yeah. So, over Thanksgiving, I had drafted out some Q&A to put on my website, and I have it. I just don't know how to put it on my website, how best to get it on there, and how best to incorporate it into the website. I think probably the biggest factor is finding someone that I trust or finding someone that will be competent to get it up there and help walk me through that process. I'm fearful that it's going to be more money than I want to spend. I'm fearful that they won't do it as well as the next person might do it.
So I'm going to take a step back for a moment. Your assumption is that you need to work on the website in order to increase your PI cases. What exactly is the website going to do for you? What is the actual marketing strategy that you feel the website is what needs to be updated? How have you arrived at that conclusion?
Well, I have seen with what I've been able to do. When I went out on my own, I created my own website. And with adoptions, I was able to rank very high very quickly. Maybe not very quickly, but 4 to 5 months, I was beating the other very well-established adoption attorney, or one of the other ones. And they're they've got all the professional marketers out there, and I was able to beat them. I think that my belief is that more and more people are going to web searches more and more, and we're seeing that more and more. And so that's why I think that's important to help the PI to help the PI practice. I don't think it's everything, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know if half the cases are being referred, or people are getting the kind of benefit from the online presence that they think they are. But I do believe, because so much of it is fine law and these websites that are I don't think are particularly effective. I think there's some low hanging fruit there where I can make some progress on SEO there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of the answer. I think it can be an effective ploy, effective strategy in my particular market.
Right. So I'm not questioning whether or not that's true. I'm
Right.
certainly not injecting an opinion here. So I'm
Right.
strictly fishing for information from you. So you've looked at other options and come to the conclusion that this is probably the most cost effective or time effective option for you, given the other marketing options on the table to bring in PI cases.
I don't know if I've been that deliberate in that decision-making process. I think it's easier to get the website up and put it out there and cross your fingers.
Uh-huh.
So it's I think that's part of it. That might go back to my natural
Hide behind the website.
Right. Exactly.
Introversion.
Yeah, sure. Introversion. Sure. No, I think there's something to that.
Not a problem. And again, we're right now we're asking questions to simply bring information forward that you might not have been consciously thinking about. So I just want to point out that you assumed that the website was where you needed to focus. You also identified that you have some hesitancies to hiring somebody necessary and applying the time necessary to do it, which might play. There's a reason for that, and maybe there's a real deep-rooted reason why you don't trust people, and you've hired vendors in the past and they didn't rise to the occasion of where they said that they would be. That's always a possibility, or you have other
Sure.
Deep-rooted issues with that. That's a possibility, or it could just be simply not having taken the time and effort to do the due diligence to find somebody. So that's why you're saying you have hesitancy to hire somebody.
Right.
But maybe it has something to do with you're not convinced that doing this work on the website is going to create the result that you want.
I think it's probably more the first one. I think that I do think it will be effective. I think I had good results when I was doing. Now, adoptions are much easier to rank for than car accident attorney. I get that, no question. Work in my market, we compete with Atlanta attorneys, which are Atlanta proper is an hour away. But if the firms that are doing pay per click are all Atlanta attorneys for PI, and so I don't want to compete with pay per click. I want to compete organically with and showing up early on the searches. So anyway, I think there is some benefit to getting that website up and running and more robust with the PI work. One of my PI cases last year found me online. And so I think there is that there is something to that. But I think there's also, there's obviously other marketing that I could be doing that's not hiding behind the website. That's maybe not in my comfort zone as much.
Do you know what that is?
I think part of it would be just the referral base marketing where you're really reaching out to other attorneys and letting them know. I think that in my, a lot of my friends wouldn't appreciate a personal injury attorney. They have a bad name. And so making sure everyone's aware that I'm also a personal injury attorney, I think might open myself up to that uncertainty of, not friends. I mean, my real friends wouldn't mind one bit, but, acquaintances and people that I know and that kind of thing saying, oh, you're an ambulance chaser, yada, yada, yada. So the type of the other type of just making sure people are aware of the what you do. If someone's hurt and someone's been hurt by someone else's negligence, they need to call Curtis because Curtis can help them. Making sure that's out there and is aware, I may be less willing to do that because of that, that issue.
Okay. If we could solve that problem, so if we could help you figure out how to let people know that you are now offering PI services in a way that would not put you in the category of thinking of you as an ambulance chaser. And you're going to people who you already know. So we're not talking about going outside your comfort zone to make new connections. Is there anything else that would hold you back from reaching out to your existing network to let them know, hey, this is, we do this?
I don't think so. I don't know of another hesitancy I would have, another barrier I would have.
Okay, perfect. So let's move back to the capacity question. So one of the other things that you said would hold you back from getting to capacity or to your objective of 2 to 3 PI cases working through your firm at any given time. You said that you would need to hire a full-time Spanish-speaking assistant. I'm not going to question why or whether that's a correct assumption. I'm assuming that based on your market, that this is what you need. My question to you is what would stop you or hold you back from doing that? Why is that something that you identified as something that's going to stand in your way?
Well, I'm concerned about bringing on a regular full-time staff member, and then not having the cash flow. I'm not worried about paying him or her. I'm worried about how much I'm paying myself at the end of the day.
Oh, I understand that.
Not having the cash flow at the end of the month to pay myself. And so that would be one. The other would be I've been fortunate. The 2 people that I've hired, other than my wife, since I started, were both people that I knew beforehand. Both of them had previously worked at the other firm, and so I knew on the front end what I was getting. I think I've heard too many war stories about hiring, so that's part of it. I think it's just a challenge. It's a challenge that I haven't faced yet. Finding someone new and pulling the trigger on someone new.
Okay. So do you think that if we figured out a way to resolve your concern about cash flow and also to help you overcome the concern about a bad hire, I don't know, maybe you end up hiring another person that you already have a relationship with, right?
Sure.
Is there anything else that might be stopping you or holding you back from hiring a full-time Spanish-speaking assistant to handle the additional PI work?
My physical space in my office at some point is going to become an issue. I am currently sharing the second floor with another attorney. We have no relationship other than we're roommates. But I have the 2 offices and use of the conference room and a copy room. So space is going to be an issue when I do that. I think I'm going to send my wife to the house and let her work part-time at the house when I do that. That's part of that plan. But I don't know what I would do with my other assistant and how we do that. There is a reception area that I don't think is ideal because it's right there at an open window to the reception area. So I don't feel comfortable putting someone there full time.
So you think that this additional person will be the catalyst for a problem with the space in your office?
Could be. There's another room that's not being used, and there'll just be some transaction costs getting access to the room and using it. But other than that, so there's going to be just some additional costs involved, startup costs, and getting someone on board.
So you don't have to move your whole office. You just have to rent another room that's available as far at right now it's
Yeah,
available.
that's right. And I'd have to get furniture for it and those kinds of things. So nothing that can't be done, but it's just another step. So
Okay. So is there any reason that that would hold you back or get in your way if you had figured out that this is the right next move? Or is it just the
here
cash flow?
again,
Is it just the cash flow you're
it
concerned about?
yeah, I think it's just the fear that the cash flow wouldn't be there.
Okay. Is there anything else that might be standing in your way or stopping you from getting to 2 to 3 PI cases working through your firm at any given time?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
All right. So I'm going to ask the same question again, but not specifically about any of the things, but going back to your original magic wand situation. If you could wave a realistic magic wand, where would you like your firm to be in the next 6 to 12 months? You told me that you want to have a 50% increase in your adoption cases, both from DFAC as well as private. You want to have 2 to 3 PI cases working through your firm, and you want to only be taking mediation cases and limit those cases to the capacity available, whatever's left after those PI cases and adoption cases. Is there anything else that we haven't already discussed that could be slowing you down, standing in the way, or stopping you from achieving that?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. So what impact do you think these challenges that we've identified are having on your law firm today?
Say that again.
What impact do
Ask
you
that again.
think that these challenges that we've identified are having on your law firm today?
I think the challenges and the things that are holding me back are limiting my ability to get out there more and market myself more. Marketing myself outside of my 2 counties for the adoptions and marketing myself personally as a personal injury attorney.
So is it fair to say that it's limiting your ability to grow the firm to where you want it to be?
Yes, that would be fair.
So what impact are these challenges having in other areas of your life because your potential in the firm is limited?
Well, the personal financial goals that I have are being impacted ultimately.
Would your personal financial goals be met in this ideal situation we laid out?
Yes, I mean I'm certainly making progress on my goals right now, and have since I've left my previous firm. You know, my roadmaps, my goalposts might be reached quicker with you know a more lucrative scenario, certainly.
Is there any other area of your life that's affected other than your personal financial goals?
Well, I would hope with that mix, I would not. I would have more time away from the office, and I'd have to think about that. I think ultimately, I don't mind being in the office and working, but I also wouldn't mind, you know, being able to leave on a consistent basis. You know, if I left 30 or 45 minutes earlier every night, that wouldn't hurt my feelings either.
I get you.
So, yeah, less weekend time. You know, I typically come a lot of Saturdays. I come in, if for no other reason is it's a wonderful time to actually get more difficult things done because the phone's not ringing.
Right.
And so it's a very productive time for me generally.
Okay, so you would get some personal time back, 30 to 45 minutes a day, and your weekend time.
I would think so.
And not having
that's an
this,
expectation.
and not having this is definitely preventing that from happening.
I don't know that I can. I don't know I can be that definitive about it. My presumption is that I could be more productive with the time that I have on those types of cases and scenario. You know, if that has how my caseload had changed. But I think it's an assumption. I think it's probably a good assumption, but I think it's an assumption.
Okay. Any other challenges besides for financial goals and time away from work that are being affected by your the limitation of the growth in your firm that's being held back by the items that we identified?
I don't think so. I don't know that I've identified any others.
Okay. And how long have these challenges been going on?
Well, that's an excellent question, because I think I'm able to identify them more easily now than I was before I left my previous firm. There were all kinds of other limiting factors at my previous firm, but I still had these as well. So maybe we could say we could go back to the beginning of my law practice. They're more in tune now because I'm more willing to say this is what I want because I'm calling the shots, and this is what I want, so this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to tailor my practice exactly the way I want to do it. So I think that would be. I think it's a long-standing issue that I'm able to identify better and able to have more control over now that I'm out on my own.
And it's got to be tough dealing with these kinds of challenges for such a long period of time. Now you're more in tune to it, but it's almost like you got used to it, like a bad neighbor. They move in next door and they're really you can't get along with them, but eventually you figure out how to let them coexist next to you.
Sure. And quite frankly, they have not been so limiting. Like I said, I've made significant progress since leaving McCamey.
Absolutely.
And what we're talking about is moving towards, from what I consider to be a pretty decent setup right now to an even better setup, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be
absolutely.
defensive. I'm not trying to be defensive. But I love being out on my own, and I love the freedom it gives. I love the ability to make my own decisions about this. Where am I going to put my marketing dollars? Where am I going to do this? Where am I going to do that? And making those decisions myself, it's been exhilarating. And it does allow the freedom to have these kinds of conversations and these kinds of thoughts. And so why can't you do that? Why can't you do this?
Absolutely. Okay, so what's the worst part about these challenges?
The worst part about them might be that I live with them all the time. I'm an introvert all the time. I don't like, my idea of a good time with friends is 2 or 3 friends out together, but by ourselves, not at a party, just the 2 or 3 of us, And so, although that's not a problem, that's just how I enjoy myself. But right. So I don't know. I don't know what the worst part is, other than it's just a challenge all the time. And when it comes to this kind of personal marketing, which I believe to be important.
Right. Okay. And my next question would have been why, but you just explained it, so that's fine. So let me ask you this: if you could turn all these challenges around and flow freely toward your goals, what would that do for you?
Well, I hope it would mean that some of these other goals would follow. That the goals of getting more of the adoptions in the other counties would follow, and being able to get a healthy stream of PI cases would follow.
And what would be the best part about that?
Well, probably certainly getting more adoptions would be nice. The financial aspects of getting more PI cases would be nice. But probably the best part would be being able to do and help more people with the adoptions.
Okay, why?
Well, it just fits with where I'm at. It's important to me. It's something that I can do over and above just being a good lawyer. I think it's fun watching a adoption. It's fun watching a judge sign an adoption decree and knowing that this child is just hit the lottery and is set for life.
That just sounds so awesome.
We were involved personally with years ago. Me and my wife were personally involved in a scenario, and that's how I said it at the time. I said that young lady just hit the lottery. She doesn't even know it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful way to look at it, and I'm just imagining the confetti raining down and the, somebody smiling, skipping off into the sunset.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I provide the photographer, because when I adopted my two daughters, and it's a little different. We adopted them as adults. We kind of took them in as children, but before they turned 18. But we adopted them as adults because it didn't really matter to us before then. They were ours. We didn't need the paperwork. My oldest daughter was going into the Army, and we figured Uncle Sam might need the paperwork. So that's when we adopted my oldest daughter, and we didn't even think about a photographer. We had a lot of friends there, and we had friends taking pictures for us and stuff, but so many people think they can't afford a photographer just to come and take pictures on the day of their adoption, and so I provide it for free. Mm-hmm. They love it, and my photographer loves it because she's a foster parent and she's adopted. She has adopted others, children, and so it's a labor of love for her. So it's just the greatest thing all the way around. And it doesn't cost me that much money, and it's a great thing for these clients and for these kids. And so anyway,
I love that you do that, and it's gonna, eventually it'll pay dividends. Somebody is talking to an adopting family and asking them questions, and you'll get referrals from them. That's not why you're doing it, but any extra touch that provides an extra level of customer experience is always going to come back in spades at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What have you found most valuable about our time together so far?
I think probably highlighting and kind of identifying just where my hesitancy is coming from and saying it. I think I probably knew it. I know it's uncomfortable for me to go and bring breakfast to a bunch of folks, and I know that's uncomfortable, but actually saying it and putting it out there and saying that's why it was so difficult. That's why. And you can still do it. Own it. Say, yep, it's difficult, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Kind of like me going on the Peloton.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So normally in a coaching session, this is where I would turn and say, well, I have a program designed specifically to help people overcome these sorts of challenges. Would you like to hear more about it? Because we're doing this publicly, I'm actually not going to turn to that. And instead, I'm going to move to a little bit of coaching on the specifics that we've identified. Do you have time for that? We've run a little bit longer, so I just want to make sure to double check with you before I move forward.
So. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay. So one of the things that I find to be the biggest problem in the legal industry is trying to do more than one thing. And honestly, this is a problem in any business because especially, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we always think that by taking on more, adding more services, adding more things that we can sell is going to increase our business, is going to make our lives better. When the reality is that we're just adding complexity when we could be more simple.
Right.
And one of the things that I would like to help you realize and identify, and not necessarily tell you that you're doing anything wrong, but just to point out that the challenges that you're having with being able to spend time on your website at the same time that you're trying to take people out to breakfast, at the same time that you might need to increase your marketing outside of your two counties for something else. All of those efforts are in some way competing against each other. They're competing for your time and attention and your focus.
Sure.
And when we try to do multiple things, we lose focus and we don't do any of them well. One of the things I learned from a particular person, he has a program called the 90-Day Year, and his name is a blank to me right now, and I'm going to hit myself later for forgetting, but it'll come back to me. One of the things I learned from him is this idea of the loss of productivity in context switching. So he's coached athletes, and basically he demonstrates this, proven through research, that if you have one thing you're focusing on, it's going to get 100% of your attention. Even at 100%, we don't operate at 100% capacity. So we're already limited to 80% when we're only focusing on one thing. If we now turn our focus to two things, we actually don't get 40% and 40% on each of the two items. We lose some of that productivity by switching from one to the next. So there's brain power required to get into the mode of the next thing that you're doing, to switch from one task to another. And that's called context switching. And what happens is instead of getting 80% capacity, you might get 35 and 35 when you're focusing on two things. Now, take it further, focus on a third or a fourth, and you end up getting 15% on each of the four instead of, so you're losing 20% of your capacity by going to four things instead of one. And what happens is that we not only can we not focus on one and just get it done and see it to fruition and make it the best possible, but we're even losing so much of our capacity to produce and to be productive by taking on multiple items and then trying to switch between them. How does this translate into a law firm? Well, if you are trying to grow three different areas of the practice, or maybe not even, you're not trying to grow the mediation piece, right? You're trying to grow the PI piece, and you're trying to grow the adoption piece. Each of those two brings its own challenges. Sure. The adoption piece, you need to do a better job marketing. You need to get out of your comfort zone, go outside the counties. Other than that, you already have it all figured out. The PI piece, you need to not only get the marketing down to bring in the additional capacity, but you even need to increase your staff, train that staff person, make sure it's a good hire. Right. You need to get an office space for them. And trying to do these at the same time is going to mean that you're slowing down or killing one of them in order to achieve the other. And they're going to essentially compete against each other for your time and energy and for success. And what ends up happening is almost like a seesaw of where we're putting our efforts. So you put your efforts into one, and then you start to see success with it. And then you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm not doing anything on this other thing. Let me put some efforts into that. You take the foot off the gas and the one that you were putting efforts into, and now suddenly the seesaw goes in the other direction. And you end up never moving forward because you're just going up and down, up and down, up and down. Or you move forward very slowly. Another way to look at it is kind of like driving with your foot on the gas and on the brake at the same time, right? If you can think about that situation, you'll move. The gas will win eventually, but it's gonna take a lot longer to move forward than it would have taken to just take your foot off the brake. Sure. So I offer this idea to you because it might be more prudent and effective for you to consider focusing on one, choosing which is the most important one, and then taking that to the furthest extreme that you can take it before you say, okay, let me add something else. And
Right.
in the same breath, I'm not saying turn away business if you're really good at doing X, Y, and Z. You know, one of the first things that's going to come to your mind is you're going to say, well, I can't turn away a good lucrative PI case. You know, I need to
Right.
put food on my table. Well, you could, but you don't have to. I'm talking about where your efforts are going in improving and increasing, and you know where are you focusing your time and energy on the stuff that is going to move the ball forward. And if you
Right.
can
Right.
choose one and focus on one, you're going to make significantly better and faster and greater progress than trying to balance the two of them. Now,
Sure.
let me do a check-in with you. How does what does this idea sound? You know, how does it feel to you, and do you have an opinion on it?
I I mean, it makes sense. I think my pushback is that I think my pushback is I'm thinking about how I'd implement that. I think what I would say is maybe what I could do is get this personal marketing of outside of my county here, and even doing a better job inside, my circuit here. That I can do that, I can get that set up, and I can and do that. But at the same time, also take these other steps that are needing to be done. I mean, let's be honest. I can implement that much easier than I can implement building out the website for the PI. And if the cases start to come in, then adding the worker and things like that. But I think that I can. It's almost like I can say, okay, this is the system. This is how I'm going to market my adoption practice better than I am now, and then do it. And it'll take extra time, but it's once I get it down, then I can say, okay, now that's on autopilot, and I know every other Friday I'm going to do this, and then put my creative energies into the marketing of the PI. Does that make sense? I can do the marketing for the adoptions, and then kind of put it on autopilot, and then work towards.
I agree with you 100%. That is the exact way to approach this. So the first question to ask is, if I had to choose one, which one would I focus on? You've already made it very clear that the easier one to actually make a difference in and to get moving forward, and it's really the one that you're more compassionate about anyway, is the adoption cases. So you've chosen adoption. That's the first step. The second step is to really, really get true to it. In other words, okay, if a PI case walks through the door, I might take it. I'll decide that at that point. But I am making zero effort moving forward until I've got this down to try to get a PI case. All of my efforts are going to be going towards improving and increasing my adoption strategy, which means that I'm going to focus my energy on doing a more regular breakfast with the DFAC staff, reaching out and meeting with the attorneys who are bringing me the private adoption cases, and just keeping a more in tune connection with those people. Marketing beyond the two counties, like even those two things, I would choose one until I got it down. And my guess is the one you choose is the DFAC breakfast and meeting with your existing connections, right? That's where I would focus my energy first, because it's the easiest and quickest thing to do. And like you said, once you've implemented it, once you've figured out how to do it, how to make it regular and put that system in place, you don't need to worry about it anymore. It's happening.
Right.
Now it's on maintenance. And now I can go and look at, okay, how am I going to market outside the two counties? How am I going to get outside of my comfort zone and beyond the introvert issue, which can be a completely separate coaching call, but we can definitely get you beyond that. We can find a solution that is going to work for you, that you'll be willing to do, that you won't get in your own way, and you'll actually make it happen. And you'll enter the market, and you'll go beyond your two counties, and you can choose how far you want to go.
Yeah.
And within 3 to 6 months, you can have your adoption practice producing the level of business that you set out to do? And at that point, you can make a decision. And you might decide, I don't need PI. I can just do adoptions all day long, and this is what I love doing. Let me just add another county.
Sure.
That may be the direction you take. Or you say, okay, I've reached my goal with the capacity I want to be doing adoptions. Now let me focus on PI. And now you're not competing. The adoptions are happening. They're humming along. You can focus 100% of your effort on the PI. And then you can say, okay, what is the first thing I need to do? The first thing you need to do is a website. That's all I'm doing right now for marketing. Any time that I have allocated to marketing is just writing this stuff down, finding the vendor, interviewing them, checking their references, and now moving forward with them.
Right. And as we're sitting here talking about all this, is you know what I want to do?
What's that?
And maybe this is wrong. Maybe it's because I'm an introvert. I want to work on the website for the PI case.
Let's dig into that for a moment, okay? Because you're choosing what you want to do based on which activity seems the most comfortable to you, not based on which outcome seems the most desirable to you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I don't know if I'm willing to say yes, that's exactly right, but okay. I'm willing to say Moshe may be exactly right.
We can hit the rewind.
To admit it yet.
We can hit the rewind button and play back the first hour of this call to demonstrate to you that where your heart is more adoption cases. Let me ask you this: If I told you the following, Curtis, if you focus on the website right now, you're going to be turning away 20 adoption cases in the next 12 months. That is going to be the effect of you choosing the website right now. How does that feel to you?
I'm having trouble accepting that premise, but if that were the case, I wouldn't do it.
Okay. The premise is based on the fact that we know. Well, the premise is based on the fact that we know for a fact that you have done X capacity this past year. Outside of taking additional action, there's no reason to believe that you would do more than X capacity this year.
Right.
If you focus on the website and on increasing the PI, which in turn is going to mean that you have to focus on hiring somebody and have to focus on increasing your office space, then it's almost a guarantee that you're not going to be focusing on increasing your adoption cases, which means that your adoption cases remain status quo.
Gotcha.
So now are you willing to accept that if you focus on the website, that's going to mean that you're turning away whatever number, make up the number of adoption cases?
Yeah, that the increased marketing is going to bring in.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So although what feels the most comfortable to you is the website, which is why you want to do that, it's not because you want to bring in more PI cases.
Maybe it's because I'm a greedy bastard.
I don't think that's
what
the
I really
case.
want is the money.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, you tell me, is this about the money?
No, it's not. I would reach my financial goals quicker, but I'm still making progress on my financial goals.
Would reaching your financial goals quicker make you allow you to bring light into more children's life?
Not necessarily.
Would increasing your adoption caseload allow you to bring more light into more children's life?
Yes.
Which would you rather? Bring more light into children's life or have more money?
The adoptions.
And we both know that it's not an either or. You're going to make more money with more adoptions, where you're not choosing poverty over prosperity.
Right.
But you might be choosing a little bit less profitability or a little bit less net income at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure that that's the case. We can have another coaching call on your pricing and, you know, how you're bringing in your revenues. How do we make your adoption caseload bring in the personal income you want so that you don't need the PI? Because if the only reason for doing the PI is the money and your heart is in the adoptions, then I would challenge the premise of adding PI to your practice at all.
I get that. And I think that it's more than that. I think the PI is a way. I don't think I can, just the capacity in this area or the market, I don't think I can do 100% adoptions. Even 100% adoptions and mediations. I just don't think I would reach my financial goals doing that. And so I think that the easiest ways to make those work is to have a nice, and I don't know, it doesn't have to be a vibrant PI practice, just a healthy PI practice. You know, I don't need every case out there. I don't need all the huge. I don't need $1 million cases.
Right. You only need 2 to 3.
Yeah, I mean 2 to 3
at a time.
And you know, yeah, if I'm closing 1 a quarter, you know, that I mean, I closed 2 last year, and it was my best year ever. And
do
those
you
were
think
not
it was your best year
big.
ever specifically because of the PI cases that you closed?
I think that it would have been if I'd never done a PI case last year, and so the PI cases I had before that, then last year would still have been my highest revenue year.
Right.
Period.
And I would challenge you to say that if you take the PI cases off of your income statement, remember that you would have had more capacity for other stuff. So there's something else that would have filled that void that would be on your income statement.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've had, maybe. It's certainly possible.
It's highly probable because you yourself identified that you're very happy in the office, and although you would like to leave 30 to 45 minutes earlier, you're perfectly fine being there. So you would have found the business to keep you in the office.
Maybe. I think the part of the reason I say so is that the 2 that I had were not particularly time-consuming cases. I didn't have to file on either one of them. One of them was practically found money. I mean, the first time I talked to the adjuster on the phone, she's like, "Yeah, I think we're going to be able to offer the limits on this one pretty quickly." I mean, I didn't even go there, and she was like, and that was what the case was. The case was that way, and it wasn't a huge limit or anything. But then the other one I had worked, but I'd never had to file. Once she finished treating, we entered into negotiations with the insurance agent pretty quickly, and it was a pretty good case. So anyway, I don't mean to push back on that. You're probably correct. I don't think it would be that significant. I wasn't turning away work because I was working on those PI cases. That's for sure.
So we're just about out of time. So I just want to recap what we learned from this call. Okay. And you can correct me if any of it is incorrect, but I think that I've got a pretty good handle on how you feel. And you've identified that if you had to choose one thing, that thing would be adoption cases. Now, maybe you cannot have 100% adoption cases and meet your financial goals. We'll leave that as a question mark because we did not cover that today. Right. Okay, so that's not the point of our summarization. But the point of our summarization is you agree that the best way to achieve your adoption case goals is to give 100% focus on increasing that piece of the business right now and not get distracted by the potential that PI has to offer, because ultimately your heart-centered goal is more important than your financial goal. And you can reach your financial goal by following your heart-centered goal, and you can always add the PI later. You've also identified that doing so is going to be the simpler and easier thing to do. You might have to overcome some internal conflict, but there's no question that it's going to be easier to throw some breakfasts, reach out to some people, and perhaps do something to get established in other counties than to work on your website, hope for the best, and then start hiring people and hiring a person and increasing office space in order to handle the extra PI stuff.
Right.
So I think after spending the last hour and a half together, you have a pretty good plan.
No, I think you're right. Yes, I think you're right. That does it does make sense when you put it that way. That although I think there's some low-hanging fruit out there with the PI marketing, there's the heart-centered goals and the financial goals don't have to interact with one another.
I'm gonna leave you with this final thought. How long have you not taken the low-hanging fruit of PI cases that are out there?
I never have.
Okay, and you survived.
Sure.
Would you survive if you waited another 6 months before picking the fruit?
Sure.
So that's all. All we're saying is just kick the can down the road. Just
Gotcha.
delay the stuff that you're going to do for PI long enough to get this stuff done for the adoption cases. Because we've already identified that once you get this in motion and it's humming along, there's no ongoing work you need to do other than meeting for breakfast a few times a year.
Right. Right.
So go do it. Go double your adoption caseload. Forget 50%. Just go put the efforts out and see what happens. And then it'll take you 1 quarter to put the efforts in, 1 more quarter to just make sure that you have the capacity and everything is set up in your practice to move things along quickly. And then you can start focusing on bringing in PI if at that point that's still where you want to go.
Right. Got it. That makes sense.
Now, there's a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to share with you a webinar I just did. It's our 5-step process to law firm success in 2020. So I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to give you a URL that's not live yet, but it will be live for the people listening to the show when they go to it. And that is, profitwithlaw.com/replay. Profitwithlaw.com/replay. I'm going to share that with you personally when we're done here. And you might find that helpful to, now that you have your direction, to really put the plan in action. And on the end of that, I sell a 2-day workshop that I'm going to be doing this upcoming week. And you have the opportunity of joining me for those 2 days to actually put a very specific plan in place, a financial plan, a marketing plan, a sales plan. How you're going to make this all happen? What are you charging enough? How should you charge? I know that one of the questions you had was, should you charge for consultations? We didn't talk about that today.
Right.
I was
going to call you out on that. I was prepared to talk about that.
So look, we managed to spend an hour and a half or maybe an hour and 45 minutes together with we spent a long time together, but we had to work through that front end stuff. Like whether you should charge for a consultation is not your big pressing issue right now.
Yeah.
But it will be, like, figuring those details out is important, but not as important as, heck, where are you focusing your time and energy? What's lighting you
Sure.
up? What's, what is exciting you? And adding 50% more adoption cases is going to give you all the fuel that you need. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I actually have
Yeah, I've
another interview
appreciated it.
lined up right now. So, we're
Gotcha.
gonna we're gonna wrap this up.
Perfect.
I will. So I will follow up with you in the following couple of ways. First of all, I'm going to send you the recording to this so you can listen to it front to back and just make sure you're okay with me sharing this with our audience. And second, I'm going to share those links with you, but just give me until this evening to send all that stuff out.
Perfect.
And then once you give me the green light, we'll produce it, we'll put it out there, and let everybody benefit from this exercise we just did. And at the same time, I invite you to go through that 60-minute presentation I did, and then if it's valuable to you, you feel free to join me for those 2 days.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I appreciate your help and your insight.
Curtis, this has been fun. So thank you for playing along.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. So there you have it. That is the end of our coaching call. Now, I was actually running off to another podcast interview that was scheduled immediately after that coaching session. So I kind of needed to cut it off at the end, where we could have potentially continued and gone a little bit deeper into some other topics. So I'm going to invite Curtis to continue this conversation in our Facebook group, in the Law Firm Growth Summit Facebook group, where we can talk about one of the questions that he had was specifically around whether he should charge for consultations. Right now, he's providing free consultations, and is that a deterrent to his business, or could he be more financially profitable if he were to charge for his consultations? So that's one question that he had that I know we did not get to, and I'm sure that there are others as well. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to kind of use a test case and then feed off of that to answer other people's questions or to start other conversations. So please come into that Facebook group. It's facebook.com/Law Firm Growth Summit, or just search for Law Firm Growth Summit in Facebook and look in the groups tab and you'll see it, and just request access. Just make sure when you request access, you provide your email address so that we can add you to our email list. That's a requirement for you to join us in the group. And that is, and just a reminder, the replay of my 1 hour training session I did, 5-step process to law firm success in 2020. That replay is available for the next few days. Make sure to go and watch that at profitwithlaw.com/replay, profitwithlaw.com/replay. And remember, I'm doing a 2-day workshop to take the information shared in that session and to actually put it into fruition for your practice, to create an action plan for the next 12 months to literally propel your business forward to where you want it to go. And the sky's the limit, right? You get to set your intentions and you get to map it out and figure out how to get there and then to make that happen. So really excited for this opportunity, and I hope that you can join us on Monday and Tuesday for that 2-day workshop. And if you can't, just let me know via email, because we're going to definitely do another 2 days besides for this upcoming Monday and Tuesday. So we're going to have another 2 days where we do that. And that is all, folks. So I'm looking forward to our next episode, and I really would love to know what you thought of this show, so this particular episode. So let me know, and see you on the next one. That's it for this week's episode of Profit with Law. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with at least one person. Imagine how many lives we can change if we each shared this episode. Another way to share the episode is on social media. We appreciate your support and look forward to you joining us again next week.